first and foremost, before anything, whether you love us or you hate us, man, thank you so much for stopping by and supporting the show, man. FLACO, man, what's going on, bro? How you doing?
What's good with it, brother, man? Hey, I send mine to everybody out there. It feels good to be back on the show. And on this show, man, I'm going to be bringing up some topics that nobody knows about, man, that are really deep, man, that are good, man, that I've been waiting for my platform to blow up to do it. But since Tony has a platform that's blown up, I'm going to share some stories.
Man, and we sincerely appreciate you, man. You expressing yourself and sharing these juicy, exclusive stories, man. Man, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about the one and only Lizard, man, the Nuestra Familia General, man. However, this NF member in particular, man, is not just your average one. From my understanding, he was cooperating with the feds. He was cooperating with some type of authorities. However, at the same time, he was still heavily involved in the mix. He was still taxing people. And from my understanding, he even had someone murdered. But can you go ahead and tell me, man, what's the first thing that comes up to your mind when I mention the name Lizard, man?
Well, first of all, man, he was never a general. He was high ranking up there as far as out there on the streets, right? The allegations about the murder, they're not true because they have the wiretaps of him fucking grilling Suave about doing the murder. So there was nothing that he didn't really stop it, but he didn't actually authorize it. But with Lizard, man, see, there's some stuff about Lizard that people don't know, okay? You know, he was able to infiltrate. He went out there and basically took the directives he was getting, and he was working with the feds at that time. And it was some high-power stuff, which led to a whole lot of other individuals being indicted. Okay, now with Lizard, he ended up still having to do some time, okay? Which he did so in a safe facility, I believe, probably in Arizona, which is one of the spots where they all house a lot of these high-profile individuals. Now, upon him paroling, this is where everything gets a little interesting. And these are 100% actual facts right here. He was working with the FBI as soon as he got out, okay? In a different capacity as from normal. Now he's John Doe. He has a different name, different all this stuff, because I guess when you get out the feds, into the federal witness protection program, they basically take care of you, I think, for 13 to 18 months. They get you situated. You know what I mean? If you're high profile. Now with him, they had a whole nother agenda. And what they used him for is across the United States, he had an FBI handler, right? They would go work with different agencies in different states on having him infiltrate and gather information to solve cases.
Wow, that's absurd. That is crazy.
Okay.
Would you be able to go deeper into that?
I'm gonna tell you a couple stories about it. Okay. After Hurricane Katrina, right? You know, the what's that? That FEMA. Okay, they had some leftover stuff from Tyson's chickens, right? When they saved a lot of those animals, so they needed to put them into a place to where they could, you know, use them. They ended up establishing a place. I forgot the location. We could look it up online, but it was in Alabama. Now, with that came a lot of Mexican workers that came to do these jobs, because these are traditional, like, you know, farmero type of jobs that, you know, traditionally a lot of Mexicans, you know, have these jobs. So what was going on is the cartels were basically using this as a way to supply drugs to come into that little camp. And so what they ended up doing was, say that they had these labor camps that were working in these fields, they started having issues of gang activity, right? That was occurring in Alabama. Based upon that, this was where they had these new chicken farms. You know what I'm saying? Alabama, out of all places, became one of the hubs for the cartels to be using to forward drugs to this community. Okay, so what they did is they bring Lizard out there. They have him go into this small little built-up city that they just built for these workers. You know, they weren't really, like I said, they were just fast houses. They had a lot of work going on. They had to reestablish all this stuff that was going on. And he was able to go up in there and establish, right, who was the main boss, who was in control, what gangs were there, and what they were doing. All within a matter of days. Okay, that's one story. Okay, another story. There was an unsolved murder that had happened out there in Wyoming, right? It was a cold case that they'd been trying to solve. They took him out there, and within hours, he had met a young gangster disciple who just got recruited into the GDs, right? So he conversated with this individual, you know, over beers, chopped it up and whatnot. He was able to have that case solved, who, what, where, when, why, within a matter of 4 hours, they say. 4 hours. This case was years old. Okay. Another case that ended up occurring was they had him out there in North Carolina. So they'd have him there. He'd be there for weeks at a time, whatever it was. And, there's a lot of other cases that came about, right? But in this case, what's kind of interesting is he goes to a laundromat, right? And I guess he's in a substantial type of area that's more black urban based. And so using his PR skills, he ends up being able to obtain a friendship with a local gang member there. And within the next day, he purchases a cascade of all kinds of firearms, like a whole truckload of fucking firearms. Assault rifles and everything. These are the things that he was doing. He was in Texas. He was in Florida. They say that the way he operated, right, was that he was very how you say it? People just were attracted to him. You know what I'm saying? They just became attached, just naturally. He had a natural type of demeanor and how he would get at people that they would just tell him things. And so they were able to solve a whole lot of cases, man. So for a couple years, I think about maybe 4 years, 5 years, is he was doing these operations throughout the United States. They would go to different areas where they were having issues, especially if they were Raza related, right? They would go up in there and they would use him and let him establish, under different alias where he's from and give a whole different rundown. And he was able to infiltrate different gangs, different organizations and whatnot. They said that even on a bus, he got on the bus with his handler, right? And that they were somewhere, I think, in Arkansas or Tennessee. And they were by themselves. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. And he's sitting next to the guy and just Ashley's talking to this dude. This dude tells Ashley within a matter of 5 minutes that he's wanted in New York for a bunch of burglaries and some assaults and all kinds of stuff. And they had some serious warrants out there. That's the kind of dude he was out there, man. So, it's kind of ironic. We've always heard of them being able to put individuals out there as informants, but this is the first time I've ever heard of them actually using someone nationwide.
It's crazy that you mentioned that because I read in an article somewhere that it literally stated that the authorities, that the government, that the cops built a whole new regiment with Ashali. They had Ashali remove people. They had him make people all underneath the control, with the feds.
Oh yeah.
So it just makes you think of how deeply involved they were, and how much how much did they let slip by.
I got plugged in under Ashali, bro. When I first worked through the regiment, he was my contact, bro. I've told this story before. He contacted me, man. Okay, I was on probation for back then it was a whole different type of time era. So when my probation was up, I sent a coded message to Carlitos from Sanjo, who at the time was the regiment commander from in Corcoran, and Wino was there. What people don't know about Jimmy Wino Zarowski, he was a captain. People don't ever talk about that, but he was a captain. He was an NF leader. So they were cellies at the time, and they elected to give my information to Ashali because Ashali was in Corcoran there. You know what I'm saying? And see, Wino and them had told Ashali about that they had put a green light on him when he got to Corcoran. But what Wino did instead is he got all the reports from Ashali and he was trying to file charges against Quete. You see what I'm saying? So there was people that actually had Ashali's back. That's what nobody talks about. That even though there was a green light, they didn't impose it, and they fucking went to investigate it, and they submitted their own report on Quete back then. And so, that whole time, he called me from a Lone Park number, bro, and he plugged me in with Chico Rose. And when I called Chico Rose, before I called Chico Rose, he told me one thing, and this is one thing he told me very clearly. He goes, no one has the authority, right, to put out a green light out here in the streets except for me and one other person, and you know who that is. And he was talking about Wino from Oakland. Because what I was told when Wino got out was that Ashali was only holding that position until Wino got out. Do you know what I'm saying? And if you look in the reports, Wino from Oakland, he disappeared. When you look on the reports from Operation Black Widow, it talks about $3,000 being sent to Pinky and then $1,000 being sent to Wino Zarowski. You know what I'm saying? And they even told Ashali in the reports to continue to report to Wino. So technically, Wino was supposed to at the time. But Ashali went rogue, you know what I'm saying? And he had a way with people that, that he could make them gravitate to his beliefs or whatever thinking process that he had. That's why they used him. They seen what he was capable of doing in Operation Black Widow. And he was confident. He wasn't scared. He would go in there with, I got some other stories, man, I'll tell you, man, that are crazy. I'll tell you one more, but this is not before, but this is during. So he was one of the ones that was told to take out the DAs, the district attorneys, right? Okay, I think I talked a little bit about this earlier in the previous episode. Okay,
Why
but
though?
well, that was basically because they had been slandering. They'd been slandering Pinky and all them in the NF. You know what I'm saying, after the trials, because Pinky did not get the death row case. He was already doing life. They subpoenaed him and were hoping to get the death penalty. So they were pissed off about a lot of these cases. So they elected to put the green light on these district attorneys. You know what I'm saying? Ashley was supposed to do it. You know what I'm saying? And several times he had tried to get Happy to do it, right? Which is Henry Cervantes from Lodi. And every time there was always different excuses. Did you look into it? Whoa, whoa, whoa. And, you know, Happy actually told them that they had, I think it was called eye sensors or something, that he couldn't get into the district attorney's office. That in order to get in there, they had to go through some eye scan and all kinds of crazy stuff, man. And yeah. And from my understanding that, you know, Happy was not no punk, right? But he didn't want to do this hit. I don't think anybody wanted to. Ashley didn't want to. But Ashley was given orders after they took the district attorneys out to kill fucking Happy. Because Happy was already in a little bit of trouble, you know, off a lot of things he was doing, you know what I mean? And so...
Did he get hit?
No, Happy, they never got hit. Because Ashley was already working with a district attorney. They pulled him, I think, as an informant. I think it was in Santa Monica or Santa Barbara. It was somewhere down south, man. Santa Barbara, in a motel. I think December 26th of 1999, I believe it was. Or no, 2000. December 26, 2000 is when they actually got the confirmation about him becoming, you know, an informant. And so what they had done is they had done a whole bunch of interviews. I mean, they were doing, he had all the regiments reporting to him. So what they did was the feds get everything wiretapped. They'd have surveillance outside and everything. And so he'd have them come one in at a time. And, you know, Happy ended up being summoned to a meeting. And I guess he had told his lady, you know, like, here, he thought about leaving, grabbing all the money and taking off that he had. But I guess Happy on the way there, you know, he was stressing. He thought he was going to get killed. He thought they were going to kill him. And they said that, I heard that under surveillance, they're watching him, the feds, right? That when he got out, man, that he was like, had his head down, like he tried kicking a can and he missed, and he just had his head sunken, like, you know what I mean? And he even told he even told law enforcement, Happy did, that he really thought he was going to get killed that day. You know what I'm saying? So when they have the meeting, now Happy's not no punk. Nobody misconstrue this, but I get why he wouldn't want to kill a district attorney. That's hell of attention, hell of heat. They said when they went into the meeting, man, kind of, you know, he was all down, you know, whatever. And then Ashley said, hey, you know what? I don't think killing this district attorney is not a good idea. Next, you know, they said Happy was the most happiest motherfucking room, man. You know, he knew he wasn't going to get killed. You get what I'm saying? So that's the kind of things that they had, man. Like after that, they had several different meetings, and the only one that was able to catch anything was Chico Rose. When Chico Rose came, right, for his meeting, which he was out there in San Jose at that time, they had brought soldados to be surveillance, to be perimeter checks, right? So they end up noticing the feds there. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of question marks about that. But see, no one knew the red flags yet, man. Nobody knew who was behind all that stuff, man. So they were doing all kinds of stuff, man. And, you know, he was conducting illicit activities at the same time. You know.
Was there any assumptions? Did his name ever get brought up in question? Or was he so slick with it? Was he so charismatic that nobody... He was
finessing. He was saying that certain C's were on freeze not to communicate with. He was putting anybody that was a potential threat or risk to him fucking at bay. You know what I'm saying? He was telling Silent from Tulare County that certain C's were on freeze and no good and not to communicate because they were trying to stop the pipeline of communication. They didn't want them communicating. So he was stopping all that. That's why he was only out there for so long, bro. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't out there that long. But see, they had already been building the case since 1997. You know, and that case started with an individual who I'm not going to mention his name, but he was a regular northerner from Santa Rosa, bro. No other affiliations, bro. A regular northerner. He wasn't no NF or nothing, which led to another NR member named Paco eventually getting plugged in. So that was one of their first informants at that time. You know what I'm saying? And from there, they were trying to kill a whole lot of people at that time, man. You know, and the feds were catching wind of all of it. They knew they were going to kill MC. They knew that they were going to kill, when they killed the other cat that Spokio killed. These feds tried to do they allowed a lot of murders to happen, believe it or not. They had the information, but they didn't want to expose their hand at the same time, and they wanted to continue the investigation. It's like I always kind of tripped out that, I got plugged in directly through a federal informant at that time. Now, I'd never functioned on the streets before in my life. How are you going to allow a federal informant to plug me in to commit criminal activities, bro? You get what I'm saying? And I later learned that, several of us were on their radar to be under investigation and potentially indicted. I know Rojo was, Boxer was, and even myself. I mean, I got the letter behind that says that. You know what I'm saying? I was on their radar. Thanks to 9/11, I didn't get caught up, and I wasn't really deeply in the mix enough at that time. You know what I'm saying?
What about pre-Operation Black Widow? What can you tell me about Lizard pre-Operation Black Widow? Was he still a heavy influence or heavy presence within the organization?
Well, he was sharp, but sometimes he talked more than he should have. I know Carlito shut him down when he went through Corcoran. You know what I'm saying? Because of some of his actions. He was a beast, bro. He was with the action, bro. You know what I'm saying? He has a lot of family that were out there in Pittsburgh at the time. Because I even remember that when I was given an address to send money when we were selling some stuff out there, legitimate stuff, but it was out to a Pittsburgh address, so that was his address. So he was involved in everything, bro. He's originally from South. You know that, right?
Where is he from?
I want to say Long Beach, bro. I can find out. I can get confirmation where he's from, but originally from Long Beach.
So just to make this crystal clear, he's the same individual that was on Gangland that said that he used to be a Southerner. However, a high-ranking individual of the other side approached him and said, "Hey, you know what? We're family members. Why don't you come over here to this side?"
Yes.
Is that correct?
I believe so. That's his story. I don't know the details of it, but yeah, that's him. He went by Casper in that TV show. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
He also, let me see. So if I'm not mistaken, he was recruited through by Big Smiley. I believe so. I think Big Smiley from Salinas, Big Smiley recruited Skip as well. So Big Smiley recruited a lot of people, man. You know what I'm saying? But as far as his activities and all that, he wasn't. I know he outranked a lot of people out there in the streets, but that was just because he was had access to them. See, when he was up there in the Bay, he was with Cuete. So Cuete was the RSD at that time. I think this is before he became the regiment, the interim SRG. So as the RSD, all reports went to him for the regiment. You know what I'm saying? So Cuete knew the dirt on everybody. You know what I'm saying? So Cuete used to use things to his advantage as a leverage, man. And he was always scared that he was going to get exposed. You get what I'm saying? So yeah, so Ashali's career though as an informant didn't just stop at Black Widow. Once he got out, man, they used him everywhere. He passed away though. You know what I'm saying?
He passed away?
Yes, he's dead.
When?
Let me see. I think about what was it, 6 to 8 months ago? Maybe a year ago. You know?
How?
I'm gonna have to guess cirrhosis of the liver, man. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things that I heard. Was that. There's rumors and there's rumblings that he was doing a lot of seminars for law enforcement and that he was still showing up to a lot of these seminars high. So he was still using, and that was also set back with him. He was a heroin addict. You know what I'm saying? So like most people who suffer from addictions, you're always going to worry if that's going to be found out. You know what I'm saying? Because that's going to have serious consequences if they find out that you're using. And sometimes once people fall out, they don't care no more because they have nobody to answer to. So he was in Idaho. Out there for a minute, trying to infiltrate that he was a Sureño, right? I got some stories about that they're gonna trip off about this dude. These are from pretty credible people, right? One is that when he was out there, he was telling everybody he was a Sureño, right? Eventually he got found out, right? By some Sureños out there, and then he told them that he was instructed by the inmate to do what he did to infiltrate the NF. So that's the kind of caliber of dude he is. He thinks he can finesse any type of situation. He's been arrested. He's been arrested before, and when he was arrested, he tried to say the same thing, that he was inmate, that he was actually recruited by Joe Morgan back in the days. These stories sound crazy, man, but one of the persons that told me that information, I brought on your show before. I'm not going to mention their name, but man, so that just goes to tell you, you know what I mean? So
yeah, you're talking someone with a high intellect, with someone who's a master manipulator.
Man, I mean, look at the things that he was able to solve. He was able to go in there and find out the leadership of what was going on, that why they were having problems over there in this small Alabama town, right? It was because of the cartel stuff that was going on. He was able to solve a murder that was a cold case, befriend a gangster's disciple and get the whole rundown within hours. Was able to buy a stockpile of arsenals. And, there's all kinds of other stories, man, but these are the ones that kind of stood out. So he was basically just getting information. He was going in there and gathering information and bringing it back to his source so they could give it to the local law enforcement to solve these problems. So he was good at what he did,
What does an individual like Ashley, like Lizard, what does he stand to gain with cooperating with authorities the way that he did?
They were paying him. They were paying him the first time. The first time, I think it was revenge. And, he was going to get indicted too, so it kind of covered his ass, but I really think it was for revenge, the main point. Because I don't think he's... Because Quete was trying to double cross him, have him hit. Quete was trying to have him hit, bro. Quete's always tried to cover his ass. There's been a lot of hits that happen out there that should have never happened, that he tried to order. You know what I'm saying? So that was relayed to him when he got to Corcoran, that there's a green light on him. You know what I'm saying? And that's where, at that time, Wino was submitting reports, because I remember Wino was trying to push treason against Quete and another active C. I'm not going to say his name, but I remember hearing that out of Wino's mouth, because I ran into Wino on the streets. Because I remember the code name that they had for Ashley at that time was Rachel. You know what I'm saying?
Rachel.
Yeah.
That's a weird name.
Well, it's a female name. It's just it's how they do it sometimes. Like Wino's name was the Swollen Eagle. There's different names that only you and that person may know that when you're communicating. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you're going to use female names, and then you can't decipher the code if you establish a code. It's like I could sit there and say, Rachel had an upset stomach today. I could be talking about that she's, pushing the product out in the streets. It's whatever code you establish. So sometimes you may hear something that may not make sense, but there's something behind it. That's the only way you can establish a code that can't be broke. The feds can't break it. If, say, like me and you, this is what we used to do. We used to get certain words. Say if I'm going to be channeling through you or reporting some information to you, we're going to establish a code. We're going to get certain words, and this is what it means. You know what I'm saying? If it's regarding a certain subject, you may have a coded sense which will give you an answer, or code, like two of them, so you can respond back. But like, for instance, say if I said like hood rat, that could be no good. That person's no good. Say if I said, they went to McDonald's, that means that person's on freeze. So you establish a code that only you and that person know the code, and therefore nobody can infiltrate it. They can't fucking break it. There's no way. The only way they could break it is if they're able to put certain actions that happen based upon that letter. You get what I'm saying?
That's very, very, very interesting. What can you tell me about the individual Raymond Sanchez, if I'm not mistaken? He's the one that got hit, right?
Yeah, he's the one that got hit, man. Basically was I don't know what his standing was before, but he was out there pushing a lot of product out there, man. And I guess he wasn't paying the taxes that they expected from him. You know what I'm saying? And see, some of those OGs out there, they start to think after a time period that, they're going to be able to do what they want to do at that time. And this is during a time era where the NF was not really being recognized out there in the streets as much as before. Like from the mid 80s to like the early 90s, you didn't hear a lot on the streets, except for in San Jose, there was a lot of attention out there. So when the San Jose indictments happened, it was hot everywhere. And there was a lot of different changes at that time. So that order, that right there, whole case, man, there's people who said that Ashley gave the green light. I guess he may have made some statements that he didn't put a red light on it, you know what I mean? But it was basically misconstrued and stuff. And basically the orders went from this person, that person, boxer, Suave, who was it? Night Stalker. All these cats were involved in it. Like this person went to drop off the gun here. Like it was just kind of excessive, if you get what I'm saying. And too many people knew about it. So after it was done, the cops knew everything that happened. You know what I'm saying? They were able to get them real quick. They were able to get a lot of these people real fast. It was just someone out there. This is my personal opinion. And no disrespect towards Suave, because I've met Suave before. I've done time with him. And he's very intelligent. But I think he was wanted to be a dude to make that call. He wanted that recognition. He was a young C at the time, being given a position. So I think he just wanted to sit there and set an example of who he was as a carnal. As opposed, because technically the way they did it in front of cameras and all that, I mean, come on, man. Everything was wrong about it. You know what I'm saying? And everybody that was involved in that case is basically no good. That's the thing about it. Everybody involved in that case, I believe, is no good. You know? As far as in the O's eyes, I mean, they're good. Some of them are good gente, but that's just the truth of it, man. You know, and was it really worth taking the dude's life? Was he really that much of a threat out there? I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? But that's what that hit was done about. And I guess they recorded afterwards, Ashley grilling Suave. They had it all under recording, and I heard that's how he was able to get out of basically giving the green light. Other people said like what's his name? Tizoc, Armando Frias said that Ashley gave the green light. No, he may have not gave the green light. He didn't stop it either, though. You get what I'm saying? But he never actually technically gave the green light. And they actually have FBI wire recordings of him confronting Suave and giving him an ass chewing. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they didn't try to pursue any further charges, because they have all that evidence that works in his favor.
What was ass chewing about?
For having dude killed.
So he was against it.
He was working as an informant. You can't give a green light to kill somebody. He put it out there in a way that it could be misconstrued. You know what I'm saying? Suave just got a little too ahead of himself. You know what I mean? You know? See, there were certain people that were being sent out there to take over positions. Like Bubba went out there. He was supposed to be the RC, but Ashley shut that down. So certain C's were getting out there, and they were being totally shut down of their responsibilities. So anybody that posed a threat, or in any form or fashion, he would find any reason to basically strip them of their authority.
What is your perspective on Tizoc, Armando Frias, the one that was responsible for that Selena Saloon murder?
I think he's like any other soldado I met from Salinas that comes in striving and is ready to make the ultimate sacrifice. And you know, there's about 1,000 dudes out there that would have did the same thing he did in a heartbeat. He was just the one that was asked to do it. And I think that after that happened, he's seen all this different stuff that happened, you know, with Spookio and all these other cats that were made promises. It's like, you know, you did this hit, but you're not even being regarded or acknowledged for it. You know, I guess his justification is he felt that Ashley gave the green light, but that's what he's being told. Now, like I said before, I'll reiterate this. He didn't put a red light on the issue. He kind of left it out there in the open, right? So he feels a certain way about it, you know? He feels the government used him, you know what I'm saying? Allowed him to do a hit, allowed an informant to give the hit order, and he's doing time for it. You know, at the end of the day, you still took
Basically, that's how he feels.
At the end of the day, at the end of the day, he still took a life, though. You know what I mean? If you get caught for it, you have to suffer the consequences. Especially if you did it under the terms of a gang hit. You know what I'm saying? You did this not knowing this individual. You didn't even care. I mean, there was no beef for nothing. You did it because you were instructed to do it. Which, as a soldier, that's what you're supposed to do. But he pretty much got used, bro. He got used and played.
That's a very unfortunate, man. You know, that's very unfortunate, man. Poor Tizoc, man. I mean, hey, he's a murderer. He's a killer. So to a certain extent, I guess I don't mean that. But then again, I just be like, damn, man. Just a young Chicano, a young Hispanic who fell victim to the propaganda.
Well, I don't think all murders are the same, bro. You know what I'm saying? I think that, you know, sometimes it could be personal. Like it's either you or them. There's the, you know, murders, the rage of passion over like females or something. And then there's those that are just followers. You know what I'm saying? who are following that want to be somebody, and that's the category that he fell under. That he was
I think those are the worst kind.
well, he was so indoctrinated and instilled these beliefs that you could ask him to do anything. He was ready to do it. He was ready to catch that life sentence. He did not care, you know. And that's the sad thing about it, man. Is there's a lot of cases like that. My dreamer Escamilla, he was involved in the Brown Bob hit. Same thing. You know, it wasn't until he got to the county jail where he started thinking about his kids. Like, you know, I don't want my kids to remember me as this. You know what I'm saying? So it's easy. It's easy to get those that are young-minded to manipulate them, instill them a belief system that they'll die for. You give them something that they'll die for or kill for, you got a soldier right there. You know what I mean? Those are the ones that you're going to look for as your manpower. You know what I mean? Who's really with that action? Who's ready to kill at any moment? You know, so that's all my whole perspective of it, bro.